Hi, welcome back. Last time we started talking about the segmentation and targeting process. We talked about how there's a general population that we divide down into segments, and then we will choose which segment or segments to target. So we kind of went through that and how we actually decide what the segments should look like. What we're going to look at in this episode is how we decide which of those segments we want to target. Okay, so we're taking more a look at the process. What we want to start doing is evaluating the segments that are out there. We've already grouped them together in terms of our product. Keep in mind, we've grouped together people who are very similar in what they're looking for from the product and how they use it. So now we have to decide which of these segments are viable for us, which ones represent opportunity and potential profits. So we want to make sure, first of all, that we can reach them effectively. We are going to be able to offer a product or a service that meets their needs and that's competitive. We're going to be able to get in there and offer them something that they're not currently getting from the competition. And as we mentioned last time, we also want to make sure we can be efficient. In other words, we are not wasting money in trying to get to this segment. We are going to be able to reach them in a cost-efficient manner with all elements of our strategy: distribution, promotion, product design, etc. We also want to make sure that there are some real differences between the segments in terms of what they're looking for. For example, something interesting that is shown up is, do you know why the Hummer was first introduced? I mean, everybody looks at the Hummer, it's this big macho machine, and everybody's all excited. It's real testosterone-driven type machine. Actually, they found something different. They found that these soccer moms that had been driving minivans for so long were ready to get rid of the minivans. The kids grow up, they move out or get on, and the minivans aren't needed anymore. And so they start going back to cars, and they don't like it. With the minivan, you sit up higher, you have a better view of the road, you feel a little more powerful, you feel like you have more control. And women didn't like going back to the small cars as much, not what everybody expected. So they decided, we're going to use a product that appeals to this. And this upsets a lot of men. If you're one of those men who are getting upset right now, I'm sorry. But that's the way it is. Hummer is actually aimed at women. You see the black ones, you see white ones, and what's the other color that you see most often? It's yellow. Is that a color that you'd see aimed at men very often? So there are some real differences in what people are looking for from their larger vehicles even. Another thing we're going to look at as we evaluate our segments is this segment willing and able to buy our product? They may have some interest in the product, but can they afford it? This will be looking at their disposable income or, depending on the product, discretionary income. It will also be looking to if they're able, if they have the permission, the authority to buy a product. If we think about the consumer market, this may be an age issue. If we're an alcohol company or a tobacco company, we don't want to target towards younger children. Not only is that an ethical issue, but legally they don't have the authority to buy the product anyways. In terms of the B2B market, you can talk to a lot of people in different organizations and they'll tell you if your product's a good idea or what it should do to address their needs. But what's most important is what the purchasing agents say. The average user of a product within a business setting can't make the decision as to what is bought. They don't have that authority. So we want to make sure we're talking and getting information from the people who make the decisions, have the authority to do so. Okay, so evaluating the segments gives us an idea of what we should be covering and how profitable this could be. We are then going to develop profiles of these segments. We actually name the segment. For example, there's a company, New Belgium Brewing Company, I can't talk today, New Belgium Brewing Company, and you may be familiar with them. They are a microbrewery. They make kind of boutique beers. They're located out west. Their most popular product is called Fat Tire. What they do is everybody who works at that organization is required to go down and drink some beer, usually on a daily basis. And what they do is grade their palates according to what they can pick up in the beer. Can they pick up different flavors, different types of techniques that might be used, aging, etc. And then they name the different segments accordingly. For example, if you're just a very basic beer drinker and you do not pick up subtle differences in brewing styles or flavoring, you would be called Joe Six-Pack. And they develop a profile of Joe Six-Pack, what Joe Six-Pack likes to do for entertainment, what he reads, what TV shows he watches, if he's single, if he's married, if he has kids, if he doesn't, his education level. It comes up with kind of a common description. And these profiles help us to design strategies expressly for that segment. Okay. So we've got an idea now of what the different segments are like in terms of if we can reach them, if it can be profitable, etc. So now we have to decide how many of the segments we actually want to target. If we decide, you know what, in terms of our product, people seem to be pretty much the same in the way they use it. And the people who don't use it, the numbers are too small to really worry about. We really need to go after everybody, take more of a mass marketing approach. We call this strategy an undifferentiated strategy. Okay, undifferentiated strategy. After our analysis, we've determined everybody's pretty much the same in terms of our product usage. So we are going to develop one strategy to reach everybody. This would be very common in the staple types of products like flour and sugar and milk and orange juice. We'll just go after everyone. Our second choice in a targeting strategy is called a differentiated strategy. And with the differentiated strategy, we realize that the way people use our product is different. So we are going to go after multiple segments. Okay, so it may be 2, it may be 10, but we're going to go after multiple segments and have a separate strategy for each segment. Think about sleeping bags. People have sleeping bags in their home. Most people have one, but they have it for different reasons. It could very well be that the same manufacturer makes all the sleeping bags that you have in your house. We have, I think, 10 or 12 right now, 4 people in the family, way too many sleeping bags. But they range from the very thick ones that were for when my kids were in scouting and meant for sleeping out in 20 degrees below zero type weather, high quality, very expensive, sold through sporting goods, very name brand. Then we also have some very thin ones, kind of look like paper. They have cartoon characters on them, very cheap, sold through mass merchandisers. Okay, different, totally different strategies for each of these segments and how they use the product. Our third choice in a targeting strategy is a concentrated strategy. And this means we pick one segment and only one segment to go after. An example of this would be Victoria's Secret or any kind of specialty store that picks a small segment, says that's who we're going after and that's all we're concentrating on. This is a very risky strategy because if it doesn't work, if the competition satisfies their needs better than you do, you're out. However, it's got huge potential payoff because by concentrating on this one segment and only them, you really become an expert on their needs and their wants and how to address those. So, as with most things, huge risk, huge potential payoff. The last strategy we can choose is a customized strategy. And this is where we don't really go after segments, we go after individual people. A good example of this is Dell Computers. They make a product and strategy for each individual person. You go to their website, you want to order a computer, they start asking you questions about what you want. And each screen progressively defines what you want. They build the product to your needs. Believe it or not, also some of their special promotions are going to fit on based upon what you're ordering, what some of the components may be. So in this case, they're not looking at segments, they're looking more at individuals. Now, another thing that can help us decide which segments are the best for us to use is a concept called positioning. And positioning deals with perception, how the target market, how users of this product think about your product, what they feel the capabilities are, how they interpret your brand, what it means to them. It may be true and accurate, it may not be. We're not looking at reality here, we're looking at their perception. Okay, do they think we're a high quality, expensive product? Do they think we're expensive and low quality? And we're going to make decisions based on this. We may want to look at the total picture and say, you know what? Nobody is really fulfilling a need in a certain area. We're going to go after that. Or we may say what they think about us is wrong. To get some good potential, we may want to do what we call repositioning. Try to move somewhere else in their mind. Try to get them to think about us differently. Now, this may sound kind of abstract to you. So what we do to try and use these strategies is we use a tool called a perceptual map. We make a visual graphic of these perceptions, and I'm going to give you an example of that right here. Okay, what you see on this screen is a perceptual map on aspirin. We used two different criteria. We used how gentle the product was, and we went from more gentle to less gentle, and how effective it is, from less effective to more effective. And then based on research, we found out where consumers place different brands. So if we look at the screen again, for example, we see that private label aspirin was considered to be less gentle and less effective, where Tylenol was considered to be the most gentle. Bufferin and Excedrin are pretty much on the effective end, but Excedrin's also less gentle. Okay, so we get an idea. Again, this may be true, it may not be. This is the perception. Now you also see something else, these purple lines that are called ideal vectors, segment 1, segment 2. This is, we asked them, where would you like your aspirin to be? What are you most concerned? And we see a line in here, we see this area, and we see this area. So this tells us we may want to try and move into some of those areas. Bayer, for example, and Anacin, they may want to try and move up a little bit, do some things to change the effectiveness or the perception of the effectiveness of their product to take advantage of opportunities that are not currently being addressed. This is a very interesting tool that is used. If you are interested in seeing some other examples, there's one in your textbook, but you can just go to Google and put in perceptual maps and a bunch of examples come up. It's very interesting to look at and see how companies do use this concept quite often. Okay, let's try and wrap up what we've talked about in this episode today. We need to choose our target market carefully by assessing our resources, our competitors, and our desired goals. I didn't talk much about the competition. I mentioned it early on, but again, it's important that there's room for us to go in there. If we're offering a product to a segment that the competition does a much better job of addressing, we're not going to do well. So we have to understand where our competition fits in, not just our product. We saw that on the perceptual map where we could see the other brands of aspirin and how they're perceived as well. And within and outside our target market, we need to constantly evaluate how our product is being perceived and how we can make improvements or address new target markets. Now, the reason that I mentioned we want to look outside our target market as well is because we may see some new segments we want to target, some new opportunities. If our product is close to addressing their needs, we can make some modifications and address that segment as well. That is it for today. I hope you have a good day.